What's up? It's Bill DeWeese, pro voiceover talent and voiceover career coach, and welcome to another video where today I will be talking about working with big clients on big projects, big budgets. How are they different or the same as working with other projects? What do you need to know? How do you prepare? What should you expect? That's what today's video is all about. And before we get into it, make sure you hit that bell so that you get reminders of updated content. I hope you'll subscribe and that you'll share and go back and watch all of my videos over and over and over again, because there's hundreds of videos with a wealth of free information that you can use to build a successful and, more importantly, profitable voiceover career. So let's talk about the big jobs. And I've got to be honest, when I first started my voiceover journey about 15 years ago, in my mind, voiceover was just a series of really big projects. I mean, that's what it was. It was, going from one big job to another big job, and all of my work would be heard on a national or a global level. And that was just, what the work was. And I think for the average person on the street, if you say voiceover, the thing they think about would be TV commercials, like the national commercials they see on network television. It would be voices that they hear in video games and on cartoons and things along that line, the higher profile. And that's a part of it, but it's just a small portion of the total universe of voiceover work. It really just scratches the surface. And the things that I just mentioned tend to be the higher profile, higher paid jobs, but the vast majority, the bulk of that work out there is other stuff. It's audiobooks, it's explainer videos, it's e-learning, it's internal corporate stuff, and so on and so forth, which pays considerably less than the big jobs that you may be thinking about. But yet, when you're doing this for a living on a day-to-day basis, and you string those jobs together over the course of a day, a week, and a month, it can become a very profitable and a very lucrative career. So a couple of things I want to share with you about the big jobs. So when I say big jobs, let's define this, and it's going to be a range, but I'm going to say anything from 2,000 on up into 5 and 6 figures. Now, you may think, now that's a broad range, and it is. But the reason that I'm saying 2,000 up is because from my work, that's where I kind of see the delineation, that the bulk of the work is going to come under 2,000. And quite frankly, quite a bit under 2,000. And anything 2,000 above is going to be more sporadic, periodic. And when you get into 5 figures and up, it's going to become very, very sporadic. So when a $2,000 job comes across my desk, I get excited for every job. But those jobs, I get particularly excited because, frankly, I'm not doing $2,000 and $3,000 jobs every day. And we're talking, those kind of jobs tend to be, not always, but oftentimes are the regional and national level type commercials, or they could be bigger corporate jobs. I completed a documentary job a little while back that paid $12,000, but that was, it was quite a few hours, and it was over a period of time. But when you're doing just like a 1 hour session in which you're going to walk away with a couple grand, that's not something to expect on a daily basis. But there are some similarities in those types of clients when you're looking at that range of whether it's $2,000 or $200,000. There are some similarities there, and that's what we'll talk about. And the first one is this, and this is a big one. The bigger the client, the bigger the pay, the easier the folks are to work with, the easier the job is. I mean, that probably makes you scratch your head, right? It's counterintuitive. You would think just the opposite. But no. Why is that? Well, these clients, they're better prepared. They're more professional, more experienced. Their scripts are better written. They hire you because they like you. They've researched this. They've listened to many people, maybe hundreds of people, maybe even more. And they chose you. And they consider you a pro as well. So they're going to treat you like that from the get-go. They don't take any of this for granted. Smaller clients tend to nitpick. They don't communicate as clearly. They aren't as well prepared. Everything seems to be last minute. And because it's not prepared, they're coming back to you over and over again, changing this, that, and the other. They don't communicate up front. So you read something and they're like, no, this is not even close to what I wanted. Yet they really didn't tell you what they wanted to begin with. It's kind of like, I come from a background in radio. And I remember when I was first getting started in radio, and working with commercials where the clients come from mom and pop businesses around town. And the thinking of those lower budget type projects was that from the business owners was that the more stuff, the more crap I could cram into a 30-second commercial, the more return on my investment would be, when it's just the opposite. And they didn't understand. They're not professionally trained in marketing and in copywriting, and they don't understand the idea of space and of having a big idea, a main idea to build upon. But when you're working with professionals, it's a completely different vibe. They're well prepared. The scripts are well written. These are in my experience, the easiest and most gracious people to work with. Whereas somebody who's paying you a few bucks to do something can drive you crazy and make your life a living hell. Now, if you're newer at this, expect to be approached by scammers. This is a very common thing. There are scammers out there that look for new profiles to be uploaded to various freelance type sites. And when they see that, you can immediately become a target. So I want to give you a heads up early on so that you're not taken in by something like this. So here's the main rule. If you're newer to voiceover and you see an offer for something that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It just probably is. And proceed with extreme caution. And if it seems particularly strange and kind of off, then I would disregard it completely. Just a couple of specifics to look out for. One big thing right now is that when somebody wants you to read slowly, and I mean painfully slowly, with very long scripts, those more oftentimes than not are scams. That's probably one of the big things going on right now. And the reasons for that, number one, some people are just trying to grab your voice for artificial intelligence, where they can, convert it into these new programs, algorithms, where they can take text and convert it to speech. And you don't want to have your voice used for that if you're not being paid for that. If you are being paid for that, I hope you're getting compensated quite a bit, because your voice will be used quite a bit. At least that would be the intent. The other thing is that there's another scam going on where people are trying to get audiobook producer credits through Audible. Now, I don't fully understand this, but my good friend Tom Parks, who just finished teaching an outstanding audiobook class for my students, it was phenomenal. Tom's an extremely successful audiobook narrator. Talked about a particular scam where people will try to hire you like through acx.com, particularly, and ask you to read very, very slowly over long stretches of time. The purpose of that, and again, I don't completely understand the specifics, but what they're trying to do is to get producer credits. And the longer the recording, the more credits they can get, which they can then turn around and sell on eBay for a profit. So wherever there's money to be made, people will figure out a scam. So if you're early on in this process and you see something that just looks a little off or looks really too good to be true, especially if you're new at this, it probably is. Another thing to keep in mind is the kind of jobs we're talking about. Most likely, you will need a program like Source Connect to do. Most of these sessions are done in real time, in studio quality. Sometimes I've had clients who have their own thing, like there's a program called Session Pro, and there's Ibdiddle and other stuff out there, where I've had a client send me a link and all I had to do is click to tap into that. But Source Connect is kind of the de facto standard for that kind of thing. That being said, don't go out and buy it. And by the way, let me back up. Source Connect is simply a software program that allows you to connect with other clients in real time with studio quality audio that they can record. They have an engineer on their end that records that. All you do is talk. They can talk to you through your headphones and direct you. But don't go out and buy it if you don't have it yet, because you can wait till you're hired for the job. And then you can go buy it or download the demo, and use it for a period of time and then buy it after that. Another thing worth mentioning is the jobs I'm talking about are not the norm. Now, remember earlier I mentioned when I first got into this that I thought that was the norm. And a lot of the coaching out there really is centered around the big type jobs, which typically tend to be their agency jobs oftentimes. They come through a talent agent. Or sometimes they will come through the big online freelance platforms, voices.com, Voice123. etc. And as time goes by, more and more of these large jobs are finding their way on these freelance platforms. So don't discount any freelance platform. It's amazing some of the things that are coming through now. But just understand that these are the outliers. They're the things that come along occasionally, but they're not there all the time. And think of them, here's the way I think of them. They're bonuses. They're the cherry on the sundae. I never expect them. But when I get them, they're great. Because one, the clients are so easy and nice to work with. And the other thing is, if you're picking up 2, 5, 10,000 or more, I mean, it's like Christmas time in July or August or whenever you get the job. To share, here's my story of my biggest job. My biggest job ever was for Chevrolet. It was when they first launched the Chevrolet Find New Roads job. And you may be aware that John Cusack, the actor, is the voice, at least that does the tag for all or nearly all of the U.S. spots. However, that campaign goes far beyond the U.S. It's literally in just about every country in the world. And I was given a 1-year contract to be the John Cusack of Chevrolet for every other country. So in other words, if you were in Italy or Greece or Spain or Russia or China or Korea, and you saw a Chevrolet ad, it would be the same visual that you might see in America, but it would be a local, or it would be in their native language until the very end. And then I would come in at the very end and say, Chevrolet, Find New Roads. 2 things about that job I loved. Number one, it paid really well, at least compared to anything I'd done at that time. $50,000. It was a $30,000 job, and it was a buyout. So there's no residuals, meaning I didn't get paid every time it aired. I had a 1-year contract, and they had unlimited use of it globally, and $30,000, which I certainly didn't complain. I was thrilled for that. By the way, the biggest job I had had up to that time or since. I've never had a job that big since. And may never, or I may. I mean, who knows? That's the thing about these things. You don't know. And I would never build a career around expecting or anticipating that they will be a regular thing. For me, at least at this point, over 15 years, it's a career job. However, if that's the only thing I was depending on, I would have been out of business, The $30,000 won't last you, or most people, for 15 years, at least not in the U.S. So I did the job, and the crazy thing about doing the job was that I really never I didn't do a session. They used my audition. So I got a call one day from an agent that I have in Europe. And they said, Bill, Chevrolet has chosen you and 2 other people as finalists for this Find New Roads campaign. Well, I had no idea I was even being submitted for it. I hadn't auditioned. But apparently they heard my demo. They liked it. And so they sent me the recording of John Cusack saying Chevrolet Find New Roads. They said, try to sound as much like that as you can. I did, 4 or 5 takes. I sent it in. A few weeks later, I was told I had the job, and not only did I have the job, but they were going to use my audition. So I literally, for that $30,000, I didn't do anything except the audition. Again, I can't build a career around that one job, but it was really nice. And I'm just trying to give you an idea as to the types of things that are out there. Now, it was a non-union job, which is why there were no residuals. It was a one-time payout. So think of it this way. There are occasionally these great jobs out there. And I know folks, who have done national jobs here in the U.S., non-union, where the buyout's like $50,000 for a national ad. Now, what the going rate is in 2021, I'm not sure exactly what the range is, but it's in the multiple tens of thousands of dollars. And there are some folks on the union side, of things, and these jobs are rarer yet, where you can make 6 figures. And of course, if you're an A-list actor, then we're going into the millions. But for those of us who are non-union, 5 figures is probably the most we could expect. Again, I'm not saying there's not an exception. And if you've done better, please, tell us about it in the comments below. But I want to go back to this idea of not building a career around this with the anticipation of this, where you're only marketing yourself through agencies. Because those jobs are periodic. And when you get them, they can be really great. But let me just give you the contrast. The bulk of my jobs are far below that. My average, when you take out the outliers, meaning these higher 2,000 and above jobs, just take those aside. My day-to-day work, my average job pays right around $400 per job. An explainer video, an e-learning job, a 2-minute or 3-minute corporate presentation. Some jobs pay more, some jobs pay a little bit less, but we're talking about an average of $400 a job, which I'm thrilled with, because if I can do 2, 3, or 4 of those a day, that's a pretty darn good day. But when these other jobs come along, don't think of them as the norm, because it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that you'll fill your day with them. But when they come along, they're great, and you've got to be ready for them. So again, just a few things to think about here. The clients you're working with are going to be very organized, very professional. So A, make sure your technology is working. Make sure, reboot your computer before a session. Make sure that everything is running smoothly. Make sure your Source Connect is up and running. Do a test with that if that's what you're using. If you're using Skype or phone, make sure everything is working properly. Know the script. Don't marry yourself to the idea of how you should read it, but be familiar with it. If there's any terms that you don't understand, if you don't understand the intent or meaning, study those words. Look them up in the dictionary. Learn the pronunciations of the words and the terms. If you have questions about anything, don't be afraid to ask. Never be afraid of looking stupid. The only thing that makes you look stupid is if you don't ask questions. Understand this. These people are on your side. They chose you because they like you. They like what you do. You have nothing to prove. All you have to do is to do the job. So if you have questions, things you're not sure about, simply confidently ask the question. That's part of being a pro. And don't be intimidated by these folks. They're surprisingly not much different than you or I. Like I said, they already like you, so you're not proving yourself. You're just there to do the job, and they are committed to your success because your success on this job is their success. So I just wanted to give you a heads up and an idea of how this works. Don't make this your primary plan, but when they do happen, and they do happen on occasion, be prepared for them because they do make some nice bonuses along the way, along the road of voiceover. I hope you find this video helpful. If so, make sure you subscribe and share. Check out the resources below in the description. You'll find a lot of things that can really help you with your voiceover career, and I appreciate you checking out this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.